Josh McDaniels got fired late last night. Did you both walk up? Did you both wake up to it this morning? Because I damn know for sure that I did.
Yes. No, I was in bed asleep very, very early last night. So I woke up to that news. My brother actually broke it to me because I hadn't even looked at my notifications yet. My brother texted me at 7 a.m. and was like, Josh McDaniels is gone. And at first I read it as Mike McDaniel and I was very confused. But that makes a lot more sense. The Raiders look like absolute garbage.
Yeah, I was actually I had late class today at 1 p.m. So I was up late last night playing the Spider-Man game. And when I finished and I was getting ready to go to bed, I checked my phone and I saw he got fired, the GM got fired, and then I saw who the new coach was, and I was like, wait a minute, is that the same former Giants linebacker, Super Bowl champion? Sure enough, it is, which now I'm a little scared because we want to talk about revenge games, and both he and Patrick Graham are on the coaching staff of the Raiders. But we'll see. But yeah, that was very interesting, especially, I mean, they just lost obviously the day before, but the middle of the night, just seeing that kind of out of nowhere when it was somewhat expected, I guess, for the last few weeks.
So McDaniels is out. Antonio Pierce is in. So before we get to Pierce, McDaniels, also going out with him is GM Dave Ziegler. Both of them came in the beginning of the 2022 season. McDaniels 9-16 as the Raiders head coach. 6-11 last year, 3-5 this year. Raiders gave him a 6-year deal when they hired him. And then former Giants linebacker and Super Bowl champion Antonio Pierce. For those of you who don't know, most notorious for blowing up the 3rd and 8 screenplay in the 2007 NFC Championship game. Big number 58 linebacker captain. There he is. Super stoked for him to get this opportunity. I get it, it's only an interim title, but he's still the lead guy for the rest of the year. He is the 12th different person to coach a game for the Raiders in the past 20 seasons. Most of any franchise over that span. What a terrible stigma for a franchise. And I will say this. Yeah, it's terrible. And Sam and Brady, I was very surprised that they didn't elevate Patrick Graham to the head coaching position, our former defensive coordinator. Patrick Graham is their DC. Jerry Shaplinsky, our former quarterbacks coach, is their tight end coach. So thoughts on AP? I mean, on the surface, I like it, but he seems like he's a player's type of coach, but how much success will he have at that head coach position? I'm not so sure. I don't know if he's ready just yet. I think this is a placeholder, time being type of move.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm always very surprised when coordinators are not the ones that are brought up into a head coaching position when firings happen in the middle of the season. Mostly because, it's coordinators who end up becoming head coaches a lot of the time after they've left the teams. Honestly, the first thing I thought of, because I did not put 2 and 2 together. Tom put 2 and 2 together for me because I just saw the Pierce. I didn't see Antonio Pierce, so I just did not do that. Tom let me know it was Antonio Pierce, and I was like, oh, we know who that is. And it immediately made me think of other coaches who are originally players before they're coaches. Immediately I thought of Jeff Saturday and how poorly that ended up. But I'm hoping that because he was within the organization already, has a feel, knows what these guys are like. Obviously, tensions are very, very high, or they were with Josh McDaniels there. I just can't really see the Raiders coming out with, better or as a better team. But I hope that he can just hold his own and do what he needs to do as a head coach. But yeah, I was also a little surprised Patrick Graham didn't get elevated here. Like I said, normally, these coordinators are the ones that kind of see these interim positions. So pretty interesting. But I think I'll root for him. You know, we always like, you know, once a giant, always a giant, as Eli says. So, you know, well, not this weekend, but we'll root for him after that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wish him all the success, but not the first game. But yeah, I agree. Usually you do often see the coordinators, and sometimes when you see like a linebackers coach or a quarterback coach, I'm always like, who, with all due respect, like where'd this guy come from? But I feel like oftentimes too, when you maybe not so much in football, I've seen it a lot in other sports, but maybe most notably like the Phillies last year or the Blues back when they won the Stanley Cup. But like coaches will get fired mid-season, and then all of a sudden, like this kind of interim comes out of nowhere, and that seems to spark something in the team. I'm not sure about the whole Raiders situation. Obviously, they've had a lot of kind of turmoil, both with the team and the coaching staff and all that. And it's really just been a struggle for them for the most part. But like you were saying, Tom, I think Antonio Pierce could be like a player's coach. So I feel like maybe at least initially in his term, like he could be kind of a guy that can, you know, maybe fire the team up. And just overall, I feel like when the team's struggling and a coach or someone gets kind of laid off, fired, I feel like that's kind of flips a switch oftentimes for a team, and they realize like, okay, like now it's like for real. Now, you know, we got to kind of flip the script. Once again, I'm hoping that maybe starts the following week because they got the Jets after the Giants. But yeah, I it's an interesting move for sure, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it works out. Of course, I think all the Giants fans, with the exception of this Sunday, are rooting for him though to succeed. I think it's an interesting move for sure. Of course, that stat with the Raiders coaching definitely puts things in perspective. So that'll be interesting to see if it doesn't work out. I'm sure the Raiders fans will look back to that and not be too happy about it. But
yeah,
I think it's an interesting move. I think, of course, it was time to move on from McDaniels and the GM for sure. Obviously, it wasn't working out at all, and getting rid of, Derek Carr, Darren Waller. I think it was probably time for a scenery change, like sooner rather than later.
right.
I have a feeling that it's going to be similar to, I think it was 2 years ago when it was Rich Baccia, I think his name was. He had that like amazing goatee. Yeah. Like he came into that and like did his best. And everybody was like, that man is doing his best and doing exactly what he needs to do. And everyone respected the hell out of him, even though they weren't like necessarily going to make it to the playoffs, make it to a Super Bowl or anything crazy like that. Like, I think that we're going to fall into a similar situation here where people are going to see his efforts, see him doing well. And then, after that, it's just, who knows what'll happen, but, the effort will be recognized.
Didn't they make the playoffs under Bisaccia? I think they made the wild card round. It's very
what was their record before that, though?
Yeah, it was pretty bad before that, but they got back to I think right around 500 and got the last wild card spot, I think. Because I remember him, there was a post about him writing letters to each and every player.
Yeah, I remember
at the end of a playoff game. So he should probably still be their head coach, but he's not. Speaking of moves, this is not the only move. Raiders have decided to bench Jimmy Garoppolo for Aidan O'Connell, 4th round rookie. I mean, we're gonna have some elite quarterback matchups this weekend around the NFL. We have Sam Howell against Mac Jones. That's the first one. Will Levis, Kenny Pickett. That's the second one.
I'm actually kind of excited about that one.
Yeah, that might be the best one. Tyson Bagent against Derek Carr. Daniel Jones, Aidan O'Connell. Josh Dobbs, Taylor Heineke. Clayton Tune, PJ Walker.
What team is that?
Josh Dobbs isn't starting, though, I don't think. I think it's that Jaron Hall guy.
Yeah, this is a post from BR Betting that I just came across. Yeah, it'll likely be Jaron Hall, but I think eventually Dobbs will take over. I think once he gets the playbook.
Who was that last matchup?
Clayton Tune against PJ Walker, Browns
What?
Cardinals.
Oh, Browns. Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
man, he's gonna die against the Browns defense.
Yeah.
Do you know that they don't have any other, like the Cardinals have no backup? Like the only other quarterback on that roster right now is Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. Yeah. It's
So
kind of nuts.
They need to get somebody fast.
Yeah, might as well call Uncle Rico off the street there. Get him involved.
Carson Wentz is out there in the world.
Carson Wentz is still out there, yeah. We scooped up Matt Barkley, which I'm happy about. But back to O'Connell here. We got to give the man some respect. He looked really good in the preseason. I'm going to say that right now. He looked really, really good. Garoppolo's tenure in Vegas did not go as planned. Just 6 starts into his tenure, had 9 interceptions, most in the NFL. Not all were his fault. However, he missed 2 games due to a back injury. He's on the wrong side of 30. They started Brian Hoyer for a game, and that was a disaster. And what even makes this more worse for the Raiders, and I think part of the reason why McDaniels got fired, is because of this Jimmy G contract. They brought him in 3 years, $72 million, and it has not worked. I mean, their offense is 3rd to last in the NFL in points per game, 15.8 points per game. They average under 270 yards per game. It's atrocious. Only the Giants and the Patriots have worse offenses than the Raiders do in the NFL. Giants are last in the points per game category, by the way, as well as yards per game and yards per play. But we won't publicize that too much. We have to. They suck, but
oh my goodness.
I think O'Connell can bring some good play to this Raiders offense. I mean, as a Notre Dame fan, I think Purdue played Brady. You probably might remember the name. I forget who it was. Who was Drew Pine was going up against Aidan O'Connell, I think, and O'Connell looks good. He threw some touchdowns. Purdue, I mean, Big Ten quarterback. He's a Power 5 conference guy, so there's a good chance he can come out here and surprise us all. I mean, but he is not like your modern day quarterback whatsoever. He is a statue, pocket passer. He cannot move much. So I'm interested to see how that pans out against guys like Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence. He's basically a younger version of Jimmy G right now.
I feel like
right now,
Wink should be really excited, fired up about this one then, for sure. I'm hoping this could be another week where I think this has the potential to be one of the best weeks we've seen from a Giants defense in a while. Of course, I believe Devontae Adams only had 1 reception, I think, on Monday night too. And I know he was really frustrated. There were reports that he might have even been looking to try to get traded, but I wouldn't be surprised at the same time if Aidan O'Connell has one of these magical performances, of course, because why not against the Giants? But I do think this could be a great week for the defense, and Daniel Jones coming back. We'll see what the offensive line looks like, which I don't want to say it, but Evan Neal, of course, has missed the last few games with injury, and I feel like this has kind of been some of our best offensive line play of the season, which it's not just him, of course. We're missing Andrew Thomas as well and a few other guys, but I think the offense has the potential to kind of step up here. I think they absolutely have to, obviously, to some extent save their season. Obviously, it's not looking good already, but I think this should be a really good week for the defense. And I think this, while it was kind of back and forth, I think this is almost maybe the Giants game to lose now with what the Raiders have done so far this week.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, what do you think here? We're still 1.5 point underdogs, despite all this nonsense going on with Vegas.
Yeah, no, I think that I agree with Brady. Once this all started happening today, I have it was like all that false confidence just went right into me, and I was like, oh yeah, we're winning this game. We totally got this. But of course we would find a way to mess it up one way or another. But I still think though, I feel confident about this. Antonio Pierce coming in, coaching his first game. It's got to be a little nerve-wracking, dealing with a new quarterback, dealing with a frustrated star wide receiver who got me 2.5 fantasy points last week and made me lose to Fonz, but it's fine. It's fine. I had Jahmyr Gibbs too, so you would think I would have won, but no. But there's a lot of things happening within the Raiders organization right now, and they're trying to fix it, and they're doing what they can right now, but I can't see that fix happening overnight. I know there could be that little bit of boost, starting something new, but the way the Giants defense has been performing, and the way Tom described Aidan O'Connell's way of playing football, I 100% can see this, one, being a very defensive game, and two, trying to utilize the vulnerability of the Raiders right now to actually get another win under our belt, which would be super cool of them to do. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Sorry, I just saw some breaking news about Carl Banks possibly resigning from WFAN 660, which after that stuff that happened last week, I'm sure you both heard about that. Yeah, I think O'Connell might have some ability. He's just never used it a whole lot since getting to the NFL. And I think as we move into our keys to the game here, I think for the Raiders specifically, coming off losses to the Lions and the Bears, is get your confidence back. I mean, they looked really bad against the Bears, and they also lost to the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. So, they're a team similar to the Giants, really bad offensive line. I mean, across the board, it's not good. I mean, Colton Miller's their best one, but then you have Dylan Parham at left guard, Andre James at center, Greg Van Roten at right guard, and then Thayer Munford Jr. at right tackle. We didn't even practice today. So Kayvon's going to eat. And this is not O'Connell's first career start. This is actually his second career start. He started a game back on October 1st, I think it was, against the Chargers for the Raiders. So, he was sacked 7 times in that game. So that really gives me confidence that Kayvon Thibodeau is going to have a phenomenal game. And that's where I think pressuring Aidan O'Connell is personally my first key to the game. I think Tudo left a comment saying 27 points. What's up, by the way, Tudo? Yeah, I don't think we're scoring 27 points.
I would cry if we got 27 points. Cry.
Yeah, we haven't scored more than 16 since week 2. So it is week 9. I don't see that changing. But yeah, Sam, what is your first key to the game for the Giants?
Apart from, like I said, kind of focusing in on the Raiders' vulnerability right now in terms of them shifting everything, on the field, seeing that our defense is the strongest asset to our team right now. If it is Daniel Jones, I'm assuming Daniel Jones coming into this game, I can't imagine. I know that he's been out for a while. I know that they won't let him come in unless he's 100% healthy, but I can't see him just coming back into this game all fired up, all ready to go, and not have a thing or two happen here. So let's make sure that he has the time as usual. I feel like I say this every week when Daniel's been playing. Give him the time to throw the ball. Give him the time to do what he needs to do. Utilize those offensive weapons that we invested in the draft, Hyatt, all these guys, and help us get points on the board, because it's very obvious that the defense is doing their job. It's very obvious that the defense is holding these teams to a certain amount of points to help us win the game, and the offense is not just then scoring the points to get ahead. So we're right there. Let's just utilize this week as a get right week, if you want to call it that. And just give Daniel Jones time, and defense just keep doing what they're doing.
What about you, Brady? What do the Giants got to do to win this game? I do agree with your point, Sam, by the way. Max
Yeah.
Crosby is lethal. So please protect Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
That was gonna be one of my points. I think what I was gonna say kind of might be tough because, of course, Daniel Jones and some of the other guys just coming back off of injuries. But especially over the last few weeks, I know injuries have played a role, but I would like to see Mike Kafka maybe open the playbook a little bit more, kind of like you were saying, get these. Of course, we're going to be without Waller, but get some of these other weapons involved. Maybe, I don't know about like trick plays per se, but get kind of the offense moving a little bit more. Maybe have Daniel Jones, if he's able to, kind of maybe have a little bit more rollouts, a few more play actions to kind of set up maybe some shots down the field, because I know, Tyrod Taylor is maybe considered a little bit more of a backup, and they had no trust really in Tommy DeVito throwing the ball. And of course, the weather played a role last week, but they really, when they did pass the last few weeks, really, they didn't really take too many shots or create too many plays. It was a lot of kind of just, straight up runs or kind of these quick short routes. I guess they had a few deep balls there to hide against Washington, but I like to see that. And I guess also on the defensive side, I think, of course, like you were saying, the pressure on Aidan O'Connell, but I think also containing Josh Jacobs. He's kind of one of the few stars, I guess, the Raiders have left, along with Devontae Adams on offense. But I think the defense overall, both in the run game and pass game, we saw how they did against Breece Hall this past week, with the exception of that one touchdown where Jason Pinnock threw his shoulder at him. But I think if they can contain the run game as well, I think that would be huge in hopefully securing a Giants win.
And the Raiders don't run the ball well, despite having Josh Jacobs. They're one of the worst rushing teams in the league, average 70 yards per game on the ground. And I think that really opens up Wink's fun house that we often referred to it as last year. Blitz left and right. I mean, the Jets were abysmal on third down last week, and you want to get O'Connell in third and long situations because typically a rookie quarterback's best friend is his tight end, right? His tight end or his running back on check down. So I am concerned about Michael Mayer a little bit in this game being a security blanket. I think he needs to get targeted more, especially on third down. Only 11 catches this year for him. I mean, this guy was a second-round pick, regarded as the second-best tight end in the draft behind Dalton Kincaid, and now Sam Laporta's kind of stolen his spotlight a little bit, which irks me as a Notre Dame fan, but still, I mean, third down is where the turnovers come. These two teams met a couple years back. McKinney had a couple picks in that game, so Giants have won the turnover battle the last couple of weeks. I think it starts with stopping the run and getting off the field on third down, whether it's via turnover, forcing a punt, getting a sack, incompletion, whatever it might be. Huge asset to winning this football game, which I don't know. Do either of you have anything else you want to add as far as key? Obviously, scoring is key.
Putting points on the board, beneficial to winning a game. But I did just want to elaborate on that third down key, because that was something that I mentioned last week going up against the Jets, because I think they had some outlandish, absurd stat that out of 72 third downs, they'd only converted 18 of them. And they're right now last in the league in terms of third down conversion percentages at 22.9, and they're at 32. Vegas is at 30 with 32.5. So we could use that same type of mentality defense-wise to continue to stop them. It's just the point of putting the points on the board to actually get ahead and win the game. But I feel like we could go into this game with a very similar mindset like we went in with the Jets. And you're right. Josh Jacobs, not only does, the Raiders don't run the ball well, but Josh Jacobs is also still very disgruntled with this team right now. I mean, he came out and said, they asked him, what do we have to do to fix this offense? He goes, I don't know. That's not my job. And it's that's not really what you want to hear from your star running back. I think he said that before Josh was fired, but nonetheless, a disgruntled running back Just doesn't seem like he has a lot of motivation or confidence to go out into this game and win.
He's just joshing. That's all he's doing.
I see what you did there.
We have a quick comment here from Zach, part of our fantasy football league. Sam starting the Steelers defense against me this week. Kind of nervous for that because I know how awful Tennessee offense is. Appreciate you, Zach.
I appreciate that, Zach. Pretty sure I'm projected to lose this week, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I have to work on I have a lot of guys on bye this week, so my roster's kind of flimsy. But
appreciate you, Zach. Big Rams fan, by the way. What's up, Cole G?
Hey, Steve?
Steve, long time no talk, man. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the state of this team right now. Appreciate you, Steve, all the way out in Arizona. Crazy stuff. Giants fans galore everywhere. Players to watch. Let's do 2 for each team. It's okay if we duplicate. Sam, we'll start with you here on this one. 2 for the Raiders, and then 2 for the Giants.
2 for the Raiders. I'll go Aidan O'Connell just because, we have seen him start in the past, but, for him to actually come in as a starting quarterback in which Jimmy G was benched and not just hurt, it's a different mindset going into this game. So who knows? He might surprise us all. But mostly I want to watch him because he'll hopefully just have grass stains all over his jerseys from getting hit down on the ground several times by Kayvon Thibodeau. And I'll go Davante Adams as well, only because I'm sure that now that he's made it known that he isn't getting targeted, I'm sure he will be getting targeted a little bit more. And when Davante Adams does have a game, he has a game. So, we're worried about getting points up on the board. We're worried about third down conversions and stuff. Like, we got to be worried about Davante Adams if they're giving Davante Adams the ball. And are we doing Giants too or just Raiders?
Yeah, you could do the Giants too. We'll do them all in one swoop.
All right. Giants-wise, assuming Daniel Jones is going to be playing this weekend, I'm going to keep an eye on Daniel Jones. I was telling Tom this last week. I was genuinely concerned about his injury. I was hearing some rumblings about medical retirement. This is a second neck injury. It's a scary injury to have. The fact that he's cleared to play right now is pretty surprising to me. I honestly wasn't expecting it. So him coming back into the game, seeing how he's moving, seeing how he's playing, and then I'll say Dexter Lawrence as well, just so we can see how he's going to perform after Leo is gone and how he's going to hopefully continue to be dominant on defense.
Love it. Brady, how about you?
So starting off with the Raiders, I know I just mentioned it, but I'm going to stick with Josh Jacobs. I think just like Davante Adams on the passing side of things, I think containing Jacobs will be huge. I like the defense's confidence. Obviously, they haven't won all the games. They have played well in the last few weeks, but they should be very confident heading into this one, especially with kind of the turmoil going on with the opponent right now. But Josh Jacobs, while they've struggled on the run game, he's still kind of a home run hitter to an extent. You don't want to let him get too loose in the open field because he can burn you and have some big runs. So I think it's going to be important to contain him. But I think if they could block for him decently, he could have a big game. And then looking at the defensive side, as you guys mentioned, Max Crosby. Of course, the offensive line for the Giants have had their struggles, and Max Crosby, he was at least underrated. Now probably finally getting more of his respect as one of the top pass rushers and overall defensive players in the game. One of the probably few bright spots for the Raiders this season, and really no matter who's starting up front for the Giants, especially at the tackle positions, I think he could feast on Daniel Jones, which is not what you want to see, especially with him coming off of an injury, a very dangerous injury too. But if the line can give him enough time against a guy like Crosby, I think the Giants could be in a good spot, but he's definitely a guy I'd look at. And on the Giants side, I think with Darren Waller going down, a guy that has made some plays when he has played, but hasn't quite gotten the playing time that us fans would probably like to see is Jalen Hyatt. And of course, he's had some few incredible plays, really a few deep shots. Of course, we all know his speed. They made a few great catches on. And of course, just utilizing his speed really on any route he's given, even just kind of using him as maybe a decoy in some positions, having him kind of take some of the defenders down the field, maybe creating like an opportunity for like a check down or something to Saquon with maybe some green grass as well. But I think he's a guy that kind of with some injuries on the Giants offense, especially notably to Darren Waller, while that could hinder the offense, I feel like it could give him more of an opportunity. And then on the defensive side, I'm going to look at Deonte Banks, who once again has really a strong rookie season, has another guy that's really flown under the radar for this defense, and now starting to get a little bit more respect, and also possibly by the end of the season, a candidate for NFC Defensive Rookie of the Year. And I'm not sure where the defense will go, if he'll match up a lot with Adams or some of the other guys, but it could be a big test for him. And so far, he has absolutely risen to the occasion. And I think whoever he's matched up against really throughout the game, I think he could have a big game, but he's obviously still young. He's still kind of maturing into his role, but he's definitely a player I'd look at on the defensive side for the Giants.
Banks has been incredible as a rookie. Outstanding young player. For me, I agree with all the players that you said. I know, Sam, you went O'Connell and Adams for the Raiders, Jones and Thibodeau for the Giants. Brady, you went Jacobs and Crosby for the Raiders, and then Banks and who did you go with on offense?
Hyatt.
That's a good one, too. Yeah, I like this a lot. I'm going with Saquon Barkley here because the Raiders' run defense is not the best either. I know Brady mentioned Max Crosby, but Jerry Tillery and Bilal Nichols aren't exactly Harvard scholars up the middle. So Barkley obviously told this week he wouldn't get traded, which is great news, of course. I don't think any of us expected him to, but it's great to hear that from management. 128 rushing yards last week on a career-high 36 carries, the second most rushing yards in the NFL last week. 412 rushing yards this year, 3 total touchdowns. I'm expecting him to be a huge boost to Daniel Jones's play as well. I think those two feed off each other in the backfield, and I'm really excited for that. I mean, defensively for me, it's just the young guys. I mean, we could sit here, we could talk about Dexter Lawrence, 11% QB hurry percentage, best in the game. We can talk about Bobby Okereke, turnover machine, outstanding young linebacker. But for me, it is those young guys. Micah McFadden, 50.1 passer rating allowed this year, third best among all NFL linebackers. He's been solid. And then who fills in that spot for Leonard Williams, right? I know Dable mentioned in his presser it'll be a combination of A'Shawn Robinson and Nacho, but I do think DJ Davidson is going to get a lot of playing time this week as well. With Leonard Williams gone, he'll likely have to get more reps at the 3-tech position. Chances are that Jordan Riley still won't be active yet, even with Leonard Williams gone, because the Giants will have to elevate Gunnar Olszewski again, and then probably Matt Barkley as the third quarterback. If they even do that, we'll see. But, yeah. Actually, they probably won't elevate Barkley. If Waller's out, they'll have to elevate Cager. No? Because Bellinger, only tight end active, that doesn't make sense.
Mm.
So, which I think Bellinger could have a big game, too, this week. There's so many guys. There really is. But I think we're starting to see DJ Davidson take that next level. I would like to see him develop into a starter. I don't know, or at least a rotational guy. But he's looked good when he's been out there rushing the passer. Just don't have him blocking a field goal. Just don't have him blocking a field goal, please. But yeah, I mean, crazy stuff. Thibodeau, he's been phenomenal. There's so many guys. For the Raiders, I'm looking at Robert Spillane. Big liability in pass coverage and ISO tackling. Looking for him against Saquon Barkley. The Raiders have a depleted linebacker room with Divine Diablo and Luke Masterson. Both did not practice today. Masterson battling a concussion, and Diablo is battling an ankle injury. 2 of the 3 Raiders do not practice, both at that linebacker position. Spillane also did not practice with the hand issue, but he is expected to play on Sunday. This will be a 4:05 start time, I think. And then the second player to watch for the Raiders, I am going with Marcus Peters. Plays opposite of Nate Hobbs. I think the Giants are going to attack Nate Hobbs. Marcus Peters been in the league for a long time. I believe he had a pick 6 recently in one of the previous weeks, so I think he'll be an interesting player as well. Him back there leading some young players in Trevon Moehrig and Nate Hobbs. I think Peters is that guy on that back line. Spillane is that guy on the second level. As Brady mentioned, Crosby is that guy on the first level of the defense. So let's see what can happen. All right, so that pretty much wraps up our players to watch. Couple comments before we get into our game predictions. Steve says our defense has been hitting on all cylinders. McFadden has been playing very well. Jordan Riley. I kind of did just answer that, Steve, but just to elaborate, Sam and Brady, I don't know if either of you want to chime in on this. I think he's a healthy scratch again. I don't think he's playing. And Bellinger, a guy who, how many touchdowns did he have last year? Was it 3 total? Right? He had the rushing touchdown.
Sounds right.
And 2. And then he had one in the playoff game. He hasn't been used this year at all. He hasn't been used. He gets like 1 catch every other game, and you're just scratching your head like, why are they not targeting him more? He doesn't drop passes.
He had 2 last year.
He did?
2.
I think he had 1 rushing.
Against Green Bay.
Yeah, I believe so.
You know me, I love Daniel Bellinger. I was thinking that him and Waller were going to be this like outstanding force this past year, but it's not yet.
Steve agrees. Disappointing.
Yeah, I love seeing Daniel Bellinger out there catching balls. It's exciting. He's a good tight end, and I'd love to see more of him. So hopefully, sucks Waller's out, but hopefully this will be the reason why we see more of him.
All right, we have one last question before the game predictions. It comes, Brady, I believe, from your brother, Jack.
Yep.
How confident are you in guys like Ashawn and Nacho now that Leo is gone? Brady, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're, quite Leonard Williams, but I do like kind of the rotational thing Dable's talking about to give, in this particular case, the Raiders or whoever their opponent is, a few different looks at kind of guys up the middle with Dexter Lawrence. And, of course, I love the pickup for Ashawn Robinson in the offseason, kind of like a depth defensive tackle guy. And Nacho as well. I think both guys have played solid. Obviously they weren't quite starters, but I don't think they've necessarily stood out this season. But I think if guys like Dex and Thibodeau can play the way they're playing as well, I think that will also open up both kind of the confidence and the opportunities for Ashawn and Nacho to both, get more playing time as they obviously will now, but make some plays as well and be a crucial part of this defense.
Sam, any thoughts on these two? Nacho's on a 3-year deal. We signed him to a 3-year, so he's going to be here for a while.
Yeah, I think that I'm pretty confident as a whole for this defense. Not that obviously Leo wasn't an important aspect to it, but I feel like those holes can be filled with what we already have. I feel pretty good, honestly, unless Sunday rolls around and it's very evidently obvious that not having him there is going to be detrimental to our defense, but Dexter's there, and I really feel like he can like step up to that plate because he had a good mentor. He had a great mentor to kind of teach him what it needs in a defense and what it needs to be in a leader and so on and so forth. So I feel pretty good, and I hope they don't prove me wrong, but we'll see.
Appreciate the question, Jack. Let's get to our game predictions. Sam, we'll start with you here. Who's winning and why?
I think the Giants are going to win this week. I'm feeling very confident. I felt very confident last week as well, and I feel like we would have won that game without the ending. I did say that the Giants were going to win last week, but like we've been saying this whole time, the Raiders are going through it. It's just kind of the matter of fact. I don't know how good of a game it's going to be. I feel like it might be a little messy. It might be a little shaky here and there, but I think 17-10 Giants win. I'm sorry, 17-14.
Okay. Brady, how about you? Are you agreeing with Sam, or are you going the other way?
I am agreeing. I probably a little bit of bias mixed in, but I do think that this game has the potential to, I guess, unfortunately, to some extent, be another fairly close one. But I do think with the Raiders kind of going through their issues and their struggles right now, and the Giants who have obviously had their struggles, but I'm very excited to see Daniel Jones back. He might, come off a little cold, a little shaky, but I think if the defense can have the game they've been having over the last few weeks, and the offense with Jones, and we'll see what the offensive line looks like. Obviously, they won't have Waller, but if the offense can carry their own weight, I think in the end the Giants should come out with the victory. For my score, I'm gonna say they crack 20. I'm not feeling great about that. I'm gonna say, but I will say 23-16 Giants win.
That is bold,
Wow.
Brady.
That is,
we're being.
I love it. I love it.
I'm not feeling great about it, but I'm just trying to stay positive because I feel like this. I mean, obviously, some fans are starting to get into, okay, doesn't look like the team's going anywhere. Obviously, the team is still, going to try to win every game no matter what. But I think whether they somehow rise up and make the playoffs or not, I feel like this is a huge, basically must-win game for this team going against a team that's kind of going through it, and just as a huge confidence booster for especially the defense, who is starting to gain that confidence, and just the team as a whole to try and maybe get themselves back in the conversation a little bit, but also just kind of build off this possible win moving forward.
Yeah. These are all great points you're both making. For me, I'm looking at, again, the Raiders have two veteran receivers in Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, who we didn't even mention. Myers, I believe, has 5 touchdowns on the year. Really tall player, good receiver. Going up against 2 rookie corners, Deontay Banks and Trey Hawkins, with Adoree in the slot, probably getting the Hunter Renfrow assignment. And Hunter Renfrow has really struggled this year too. Just to show you the state of this Raiders team, they've all been bad. Almost as bad as the Giants, probably even worse right now. I mean, let's be real. The Giants are 1 play away in each game from being 4-4. And if the Giants win against the Bills and the Jets, we're not sitting here having this conversation right now like paint drying when talking about this football team. You're right, Adam. Need to see Saquon touchdowns. Need to get our receivers more involved.
Points.
I'm gonna go there you go. I'm gonna go 14-13 Giants. Now I did pick the Jets last week on the show, and unfortunately I was correct. So let's hope I keep the streak up. I have the Giants winning by 1 point. I think Daniel Jones throws 2 touchdown passes. without Darren Waller. I think Bellinger does get one, and I think Hyatt will get his first NFL touchdown as well. So I'm gonna be a little bold and make some very specific predictions here on this game. I think the Raiders score a garbage time touchdown. Not a garbage time touchdown, but I think they score a late touchdown after we keep them out of the end zone most of the game. Can we get Hodgins off the milk carton this week? Yeah, please. Let's do it. Let's get him involved.
I thought Hodgins was
Why
going to be
not?
like our shining light this year. Like, I thought that he was going to be like out of control.
Honestly, since really the game last week, I've almost like forgot about him to some extent. Just thinking about Waller's injury and Hyatt and all those guys. Obviously, we don't see Shep too much either, which was kind of expected going into the season. But yeah, those two guys I'd like to see get involved a little bit more.
Same with Wandale. Yeah, Wandale, Hodgins. I mean, I don't care who scores, but those are my predictions for this week. Appreciate you all commenting. We have a clean sweep for the Giants, which is always good to see. A little concerning as well, because, Murphy's Law always sometimes likes to play into effect. But I'm feeling good about this week going up against Aidan O'Connell and Antonio Pierce and the Las Vegas Raiders. Giants traveling out to Vegas. Hopefully I would say if they were 6-2, maybe have a little fun at the same time. But yeah, just got to focus on getting a win and getting to 3-6. Well, Brady, appreciate you joining us as our guest tonight once again. It's been a blast. Hopefully you bring us some good luck. I know last time we had you on. Yeah, I was going to say.
It was fresh off a win, but they hung in there against San Fran for like 3 quarters, but it wasn't meant to be, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sam, any closing thoughts here for the Giants before we sign off?
Win. Good. Bring me some sort of happiness. The usual.
The usual. That's right. Let's go Big Blue. We'll be back here next week. I believe we're playing Dallas again next week. Eek. Really excited to hopefully recap a Giants win, get to 3-6, and take it from there. One game at a time mantra with zero room for error. On behalf of Brady Campbell, Sam Cardona, I'm Tom Scavetta saying so long from the crew here on Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate you all. Make sure to check us out on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, at Big Blue Avenue. We appreciate all of your support and all the love you have shown on our live streams, content, videos, and our tweets as well. All right. Without further ado, folks, let's go Big Blue.